improve the economy and create new jobs if we think about it in creative ways. And that's part of the argument that I've been making about clean energy. Let me give you an example. When I came into office, we were producing about 2% of the advanced batteries that are used in hybrid cars and electric cars. 2% of the market. And we were probably just barely hanging on. Eventually, if you only got 2% of the market, you're going to end up with 0% of the market. So what we did was we said, as part of the Recovery Act, let's invest in a made in America, homegrown battery manufacturing effort. And we now have, across the country, people working in factories making advanced batteries that are going into American-made cars. Because what we also did at the same time was we raised fuel efficiency standards on cars and trucks for the first time in 30 years. We didn't do that, by the way, through legislation. We actually got auto workers and auto companies and environmentalists and all the stakeholders to agree on raising fuel efficiency standards nationally. So it didn't get a lot of attention because it wasn't a big ruckus in Washington. We just did it. And so automakers now want to make more fuel-efficient cars, and we now have the advanced battery manufacturing here in the United States to take advantage of that new market. We estimate that by 2015 we're going to have 40% of the advanced battery market. So you've got a homegrown manufacturing industry here in the United States putting people to work in good jobs and good wages. But that wouldn't happen if there wasn't a market for clean cars. That's one of these guys is one of those mics is going on, so I think we're good. But I want everybody to understand there are going to be some times where we do have to make some choices. I mean, coal is a good example, where coal is a dirty burning fuel, and mining coal can often be environmentally really destructive, particularly to rivers and waterways. On the other hand, we've got tons of coal. We're the Saudi Arabia of coal. So what I've said is, well, let's invest in research and development to see if we can burn coal cleanly. And if we have regulations that provide incentives for coal companies to burn coal cleanly and mine coal cleanly, they'll adapt. And they'll start using new technologies, and that will create a more future-oriented growth industry. But a lot of folks resist it. Their attitude is, well, no, we don't want to change anything. We just want to keep on doing what we've been doing. Sooner or later, the world passes you by. China, India, Japan, all these countries are all thinking about new ways to find clean energy. And if we're not the ones who get there first in terms of figuring this stuff out, then they're the ones who are going to get the jobs of the future. And I don't want them to get those jobs. I want us to have those jobs right here in the United States. Yes, sir.
My name is Bob Goodell, and I'm retired.
Here, Bob, why don't you grab Mike, although you got a good, strong voice.
I have one question for you regarding interest rates. Federal government's current policy seems to be to keep interest rates at a historical low level. The impact this has on retired seniors is the loss of income they receive on interest on CDs and IRAs. When do you see this policy changing so rates can get back to more normal levels?
Well, first of all, I just want to make clear the administration doesn't make decisions on interest rates. The Federal Reserve makes decisions on interest rates. And so they really are an independent agency. I have to be very careful when I have a conversation with Ben Bernanke, the head of the Federal Reserve. I can talk generally about the economy, but I can't tell him lower or jack up interest rates. So I want to make that clear. But your general point, I think, is an important one. Interest rates are at a historic low because that was part of the way to avoid us tipping into a depression. By keeping interest rates very low, that meant that businesses that had seen consumer demand really shrink were still able to service their debt and to keep their doors open. And so it was the right thing to do to keep interest rates low. You are absolutely right that that does have an adverse impact on savers, and particularly seniors on fixed incomes, because they're not getting as much of a return on their savings. The flip side of it is, though, is that inflation is also at a historic low. And so in terms of actual purchasing power, inflation is still low enough that savers are not losing a whole lot of money. They're just not seeing sort of the compounded interest expand their nest egg like it once did. I think that you will see a return to higher, more normal interest rates when the economy gets stronger. You naturally start seeing more inflation than you're currently seeing. And when that happens, that will, I think, change the position of the Federal Reserve Bank. But as I said, this is not. This is one of those areas. The president's got a lot of power, a lot of juice. This is not one area where he's got juice.
What about the over 70.5 mandatory deduction or you have to take from your savings, IRA savings? Last year you changed it. We didn't have to do it.
Yeah, we did that temporarily as part of an effort because we understood that people were really going through a tough time and might have to dip into savings. We wanted to make sure they weren't penalized for it.
We're still doing that.
Yeah, well, things don't always get through Congress the way you want them.
Okay.
But we're going to be working on this. We're going to have to examine a lot of these issues moving forward as part of how we think about simplifying the tax code, making it fairer, and also making sure that folks on fixed incomes aren't harmed in this environment where it's harder and harder to save for retirement. So, thank you for the question.
Mr. President, my name is Darren.
Well, hold on a second, though, Darren. Just because, I'll get to you, but this gentleman had his hand up first. Somebody over here. It was over here.
Yeah, President Obama. I'm Scott Turner, small business owner, and one thing for sure about small business owner, tremendously busy.
What kind of business you got?
It's an arborist firm, tree care, and get home at night. I feel like now I'm one of the few Americans who doesn't think he can watch a little bit of cable TV and tell you everything you know about how to run the company. I don't have time to watch it. It's over my head. A good percentage of what we talk about here, the economy. I know I'm too busy working to understand how to tell you how to fix the economy. So what I like to do is elect an official and send him to Washington and have all you smart guys figure that out. I'm returning to Dan's question. That we didn't get all the way through, and a young person can recognize it, and I certainly recognize it trying to build team and small business. What is there hope for us returning to civility in our discourse, to healthy legislative process, to something that I can trust, so as I strap on the boots again tomorrow morning, I know you guys got it under control, because I'm not smart enough to fix it. I'd love to send you guys to Washington and have you do it, and it's hard to have that faith right now.
Well, look, first of all, I think you give everybody too much credit when you say everybody in Washington's smart guys. We might dispute that, but you're making such a powerful point. I think a lot of people were inspired by our campaign because we tried to maintain a very civil tone throughout the campaign. And part of my agenda was changing Washington. I mean, I came into national notice when I made a speech in Boston talking about there aren't red states and blue states, there's the United States of America. I believe that so profoundly. I will tell you that changing the culture in Washington is very hard. And I've seen it these last 2 years. Because I think that folks in Washington tend to think about how to stay in power more than they think about how to solve problems. Now, if you look at what happened over the course of these last 2 years, and look, I'm sure I made some mistakes, but essentially what happened was the other side made a calculated decision. They said, you know what, we really got beat in 2008 bad. The economy is a mess. it's probably going to take us a while to dig our way out of it. We've got two choices. One choice would be to cooperate with the president and work with him to kind of solve these problems. In which case, if things don't work, we get to share the blame. And if things do work, he gets all the credit, and he'll stay in power. So just from a pure political calculation, they said, we're better off just saying no to everything, blocking everything. If things don't work, then Obama will get all the blame, and if things get a little bit better, we won't be any worse off than we would have been. I mean, that I think was the political calculation. Now, I have to give him credit that from just a raw political point of view, it's been a pretty successful strategy, right? Because right now, people are frustrated. All the good feeling that we had coming into the campaign's dissipated. Everybody's thinking to themselves, well, gosh, you know, we sent Obama out up there, we thought the tone would change. Folks are arguing just as much as they were before. So we've kind of lost hope, and we're a little discouraged, and that means a lot of the people who were supporting me may stay, you know, are talking about maybe just staying home in the election. And meanwhile, the other side's all ginned up. We can take power back. I think that the only way this is going to change is if the same folks who supported me in 2008, not just Democrats, but independents and Republicans who want to see the country move forward, if they don't sit on the sidelines, they don't give up, you don't give up, but you say, I'm going to keep on looking for folks who are trying to offer serious solutions to problems. And, we don't expect our elected officials to be perfect, but we do expect them to be honest and real with us about what we're going to do about education, or what we're going to do about energy, or what we're going to do about this problem or that problem. And I've just got to assume that if people more and more insist and demand on that kind of attitude, and are willing to punish folks when they go over the top, whether it's on the left or the right, in being not so civil, that eventually politicians adapt, because they start saying to themselves, well, you know what, this is what voters want. Now, there's one last aspect of this that makes it tough, and that is the media's gotten very splintered. So what happens is, these cable shows and these talk show hosts, they figure, a lot of them have